What's up, gamers? Welcome to Battle Mallet Podcast, episode 64. We have a special Battle Bellow episode, which is going to be an episode that focuses on Warcry. So we were fortunate enough to receive a copy of Pyre and Flood early for advanced review. So the title of this episode is going to be Through the Pyre and the Flood, because I am not feeling very creative. But for anyone that isn't familiar, the Battle Mallet Podcast is the journey of three busy gamers making their way to the Nova Open Convention every year, playing games that they love, and balancing life with those games. My name is Jerod Johnson, and tonight I am joined by Tres Al Capone Hyde.
I'm going to give a mighty battle bellow.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
So we're super excited to record this. We were thrilled to receive an advanced copy of Pyre and Flood from Games Workshop for review. I will say out the gate that this is going to be from a very casual Warcry players' plural perspectives, all the plurals, because while we do love to play Warcry, it is our favorite game that we never play. So it has been a minute since we have played it. So take everything that we have to say tonight with a grain of salt. If you would like to catch an unboxing, you can go to our YouTube channel to check that out. But I think that's it. As far as the intro is concerned, we're going to break it down, I think, into three sections. We're going to talk a little bit about the lore of the factions and the setting. And then we're going to go into some crunch, and we'll talk a little bit about rules. And then we're going to take a final section to talk about the new places of power properties that you can give your terrain in your Warcry battles. And that'll wrap up the show. So before we jump in, Trace, anything to say? Anything you want to add before we move on?
This is going to be hot. I'm just saying.
And wet.
It's going to be hot.
Hot and wet.
Just hot. No.
All right. Well, we'll find out which of those it is more of after a quick break. And we're back, and we are going to talk about the warbands from the Pyre and Flood box, the Ydrilan Riverblades, and the Pyregheists. So I'm going to take over the Ydrilan Riverblades, just talk about some of the lore that stood out to me. Then I'll turn the mic over to Trace to talk about the Pyregheists. So we'll just get started. Agile as a skimming stone and relentless as the driving current, the elves of the Ydrilan temples serve the sacred elementers of the realm's rivers. They defend their blessed waterways with swift and merciless judgment, purifying those tributaries befouled by corruption and slaying any who interfere. So I'm not well versed on the Lumineth Realm Lords lore. Most of the lore that I know comes from my understanding of the the Warhammer Underworlds warband.
Yep.
His name is escaping me right now, which is super embarrassing, but that's okay because we'll just move on. And somebody is listening right now and screaming the name of the warband at me, and that's okay. But they all key into the base elements of the realms. So you have...
It's Myari's Purifiers.
Myari's Purifiers. Speaking of purifying, that makes sense. There it is. So each of the warriors of the Lumineth Realm Lords tie into kind of the base elements of the realms. So You've got the element of stone, the element of air, element of water. I don't think any have tied into fire yet, but I'm totally happy to be wrong there. I think it's mostly been air and earth.
It's been, wind and stone. Wind, earth, stone.
Yeah. And I think this is the first water.
And now water. Yep.
Yeah. So it was interesting reading through this because the rite of passage that comes from this reminded me a lot of the Grey Knights, in fact, which is really funny. We picked these at random. We didn't know who was going to get what. So anybody that knows me knows that I played Grey Knights for a very long time. But you have to opt into becoming Ydrilan, which means that you serve the waters. You tie into the waters. And apparently it's very difficult. So you have to do all of these water-based challenges. You have to jump in the river. You have to dodge the jagged stones. You have to stand for hours on top of a single slick wet boulder as the frothing river crashes around you. You have to leap from the summit of a waterfall into the churning maelstrom below. So these are all tasks, all trials that you have to go through. And
you have to walk on water at the end of it.
Yeah, probably. It didn't say that, but I would not be surprised. But to quote from the book, it is not uncommon to see a pallid elven corpse draped on the shore near to a Ydrilan temple. So these are often lethal trials. So that, really is the best of the best that do this. And so through all of these trials, through all of this training, elves are known for their poise, for their speed, for their precision, and they just take this to another level. They're always moving, constantly flowing through battle, and making precise strikes. So, moving the way that water does, where it ebbs and it flows and it reacts and it responds. It goes around.
Find your weakness.
Instead of trying.
Your weakness.
Yeah. So they respond with precise scything riposts that open throats or pierce vital organs.
Mm.
So, so they are brutal, which is, not super surprising for Age of Sigmar elves. I'm reminded that they are not, in fact, Tolkien elves. They're not these like gentle, peaceful beings, that they are, war-bound. But each of them gets assigned to a temple where they are protecting the waterways of the realm. And they view the waterways of the realm as the lifeblood of the realm, or the realms, wherever they're from. Each of the warriors, that as they gain notoriety, they can adopt a crest. And so the crest has a horse's head on it, and that crest is reminiscent of Daisho Whitecrest, who is the legendary guardian of the great Daisho River, and her war form takes on the shape of this horse, which is reminiscent of Tolkien's elves, which I think is fascinating. That for anyone that has seen the movies, it's Arwen that summons the river into a horse. And my brother, if he's listening to this episode, is going to scream at me because I cannot remember in the books who it is. I think it's, I'm not going to get it right, so I'm not going to say, but it is another elf. It is not Arwen. This elf was removed, I think, just for simplicity. But as they summon the river magic, the river spirits, it manifests itself as a horse. So Warhammer is continuing to be inspired by the Lord of the Rings in the way that it does. Glorfindel. There it is. Thank you. So one of the things that they are often doing is trying to wash away corruption, whether that's the corruption of chaos, that's the corruption of the forces of destruction, whether that's, other corruption, just, from, humanity, even, where the elves have viewed that, the other lesser races have corrupted the land. So they will frequently attempt to awaken the spirits of the rivers, which often leads to floods and things, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Kind of on their own mission. As you can imagine, this causes some tension between, the shorter lived races. Why would you flood this? Well, what is a couple hundred souls compared to, 100 years of cleanliness for a zone? And so ultimately that's what brings them into Gur, into the Gnarlwood, is they know of the original river, the Derovar, and so they are searching for the mouth of it so that they can awaken its spirit. It has been long dried up, and so they are seeking to wash away the corruption that has infested the Gnarlwood. And so they end up finding the mouth, and so that's kind of what they're battling over, clearing the area out so that they can perform the rituals that are required to awaken the spirits. And in their journeys, they have run into some of Nagash's servants who are working pretty hard against what they're trying to do. So I think we'll kind of leave things here. There's more lore in the book. As always, Games Workshop does a great job. So it walks through the different ranks that are available. We won't go through all of that. And there's more lore. There's, some short stories and snippets and things in there about their adventures. But I'm glad that I grabbed the Ydrilan. I think it fits. I've always been drawn to the elves in Underworlds anyway. And so, and I picked up the K-Night Shadowstalkers when they were released. I feel like, this is like the next incarnation of of a nice elven warband, but it'll probably be a little more fighty and a little less grab the MacGuffin and run away. Yeah.
Runny. Yeah.
All right. So that's the Ydrilan Riverblades. Trace, any questions? Anything I didn't cover? You?
No, it sounds significantly moist.
As hundreds of listeners shudder all at the same time.
No, they sound really neat. I think that the way that they describe how they fight is really interesting, because one of the biggest things that you're always told when you're doing home improvement is like water finds the weakness, right?
Yeah, it does.
So it's the same thing, only it's with a fighting style. So it's really cool. I like it a lot. I'm excited to see how they play on the table one day when we get to play Warcry.
We'll do it soon.
Yeah, we do need to do it soon.
Right. Talk to me about the Pyregheists, Trace.
Yeah, absolutely. They are quite the opposite, which is, I think, the whole point of this box to begin with. So the Pyregheists, malevolent specters obsessed with committing their mortal prey to the flames. The Pyregheists embody Nagash's towering cruelty and spite. They haunt the darkest, most death-drenched places of the realms, seeking to punish those who attempt to deny the true Lord of the dead his due. So these guys are basically the hitmen on all of those who try and perform holy rites to preserve bodies. And here it says that such criminals include embalmers, alchemists, and holy men who sanctify corpses with oils and unguents, or crematorium priests who commit the bodies of the fallen to sacred braziers, thereby ensuring their peaceful journey to the afterlife. Nagash doesn't like any of that. He wants your soul.
Yeah,
and so anybody who performs these rites, he views as the utmost criminals. And that's what ends up happening to these people. People who die that were once like this become these twisted versions of these roles. It's go ahead.
The Night Haunt are the worst. I mean, Nagash is the worst.
Yeah,
but he takes these people like that were trying to do good. And it's not just the Pyregheists. Like it's all of the Night Haunt.
Yep.
Like he takes the good that they were trying to do in their lives
and perverts it,
twists it, and
he just
maligns it, and they're like bound to this duty. And I haven't read a lot, but like I have to imagine that they like have some sense of their old self, so they like know what they used to be and what they're bound to do now, which is just this awful.
Yeah. So when you actually look at some of the models, you called this out before we started talking. The Deacon of Flame, who is the leader of the warband, actually has a charred husk of a body on his base that the soul is like being extracted from almost. And one of the reasons why the Night Haunt do this, the Pyregheists do this, is because in that moment where they set another soul, when they set another person on fire, they feel some kind of relief from their own agony.
Oh my gosh.
So by like basically cursing these others to eternal damnation and excruciating pain, they find relief in that. Only briefly before they have to like go to the next soul, essentially.
That's so terrible.
And so they do not have as quite a pretty picture of a story. I will not go quite as into detail as like what Jerod did. You should definitely read through this if you pick this box up, because there's a lot of really cruel things that they do to try and basically relieve themselves. I will touch a little bit on each of the ranks in mind, because I find the way, like you were saying earlier, I find the way that Nagash twists these roles always very interesting. So the Deacons of Flames are beings that have fallen from grace to damnation, becoming the epitome of everything they once despised. In life, these Geists were priests of Shaitian mortuary orders dedicated to the preservation of the soul upon death. Their duty was to anoint the body of the deceased with unguents and perform any litany of esoteric rites. So they were basically the holy men who kind of sanctified the body before it was like cremated or entombed or whatever. And so now they've basically just been twisted to the complete opposite of that. The next one is the Balefire Guard. The Balefire Guard once watched over the mortuaries of Shaiish in life, protecting them from the malign trespassers. So do the Balefire Guard stand over the huge pyres erected by the Deacons of Flames. So, as the Deacon of Flames sets all the fires up, the Balefire Guard are the ones sitting there making sure that nobody comes to try and put it out. Essentially.
Oh my gosh.
The Flame Wraiths, those who were tasked with lighting the sacred fires of the Shaitian mortuaries, were known as Flame Wraiths. Their duty was considered one of great honor. They retained that title in death, but there is no honor left in the deranged Geists, swinging their balefire torches about themselves with wild abandon. They seek to spread the unholy flames far and wide, heedless of the reason or the cost. So they're just basically fanatics with torches everywhere.
Oh my god. It's awesome.
And then finally the Torch Wraiths. Nagash's sense of justice is driven by a twisted malice that makes no distinction between those who act with good intentions and those who revel in selfishness. All are subject to his cruel whims. So these guys were once grave robbers who would basically try and steal the bodies of the dead. So, and they've been caught and impaled on stakes and burned at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
The Night Haunter's so twisted, man.
Yeah.
So the reason why this particular group is in this box is all of the death that's been happening in the Gnarlwood between the Underworld's warbands and then also all of the other Warcry warbands that are in Gnarlwood. They have been drawn to all this death. And the Pyregheists have one goal right now, and that is to set the entire forest on fire, burn everybody to the ground, and claim all these souls for Nagash through the balefire. So they've just come to set the woods on fire. That's it.
No, yeah, that's it. They just want a nice bonfire.
And these pesky elves keep getting in the way with their water, trying to put it out.
Jerks.
The Night Haunt are some of the most interesting. So they're one of the most interesting armies I find, just because of how Nagash has twisted all of them to some perverted version of what they used to be.
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
I mean, there are no good guys in the mortal realms.
No.
But like, these are like real bad guys.
Yeah. And they're really bad guys that were once often good guys that have been really twisted.
Because Nagash is a jerk.
Yeah. And now there are some that were like criminals or whatever. That the one that comes to mind are the Glaive Wraith Stalkers, where they were like horse thieves or whatever.
They were highwaymen.
Highwaymen, that's right. And that's why they have the horse faces now.
because Nagash merged them with their horses.
That's right. Yeah.
No.
Just twisted stuff. They're a beautiful army. Like, one of the most aesthetically pleasing armies in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, they all look great together. Like, they all flow well together. Yeah. I mean, and that's true for these models too. Like, they all tie together.
The new elves are beautiful too.
Yeah.
Cool. So go ahead, Jerod.
I was going to say, so we know about them. We know about the Ydrilan Riverblades and the Pyregheists. We know why they're in the Gnarlwood. So why don't we take a break? And when we come back, we'll get a little crunchy. We'll talk about some rules for both warbands and give some casual hot takes. And we're back, and we are ready to talk about a little bit of the crunch of Warcry from the Pyre and Flood box. So we're just going to keep things rolling in the same order. I'm going to cover the Ydrilan Riverblades. Tres is going to cover the Pyregheists. And we're just going to hit some highlights from the faction rules, from their faction abilities, from the fighters. And then we'll turn things over to Tres to do the same. So
just to reiterate the perspective we are giving, we are not professional Warcry players. We are picking out things that we find interesting in both of these warbands. They may be horrible, and people who play this more may be like, you guys are idiots. These are awful abilities you're picking. Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
If you think that that's something that we need, that if there's one that you like better, let us know. Like, send us, give us some feedback. Put it on, Facebook or whatever. Wherever you find this content, let us know what you think your favorite is. We're just doing this for fun. So, with that, take it away, Jerod.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Ydrilan Riverblades, they have their own faction reaction. It is called Lethal Gyre. A fighter can make this reaction after they are targeted by a melee attack action, but before the hit rolls are made. For each hit roll of 1 from that attack action, allocate 3 damage points to the attacking fighter. Or if this fighter has the Agile rune mark, allocate 3 damage points to each enemy fighter within 1 inch instead. So I guess this is them summoning in the waters as part of their attack, reacting to the attack and hitting.
I find that interesting, though, like being able to just allocate 3 damage.
Yeah.
Pretty slick.
Yeah, not having to roll dice for damage. I recall that being very strong in games of Warcry. So seems pretty good. I think that the Eskurgan Trueblades have something similar.
Probably.
But I can't remember.
I don't recall
fully.
Probably.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's their faction reaction. And then I'm going to pick my favorite double, and then I'm going to read the quad ability because the quads are always cool. So, I'm going to have to pick the one that makes them move faster. So this is the double Riverblades. Until the end of this fighter's activation, add 1 to this fighter's move characteristic. So they're all move 5 anyway. So they become move 6, which is pretty quick. And after each action this fighter takes, other than wait actions, roll a dice. On a roll of 2+, deal 1 damage to 1 visible enemy fighter within 8 inches. So not only do you get to move further, but after you move or attack or whatever. So you could not even move, and just on a roll of a 2+, you're allocating 1 damage. So if you attack twice, to a fighter within 8 inches, you could just hit them with 1 damage twice on the roll of a 2+ for both of those. So extra movement, which I love, and then damage. I mean, you got to roll a dice, but it's on a 2-up. So, I mean, free damage here and there never seems bad. But this is the one that gets me. And Tracy, you weren't there for the unboxing, but this is Quad Boiling Wrath. This fighter makes a number of bonus actions, which may be any combination of move, attack, and disengage actions, equal to the number of fighter from this fighter's battle group that have been taken down.
Holy crap.
And so in the unboxing, went over this. There are 65-point toughness 3, 8 wound fighters in this warband. So they are the chaff of chaff. like you almost want them to go down. So you throw somebody big in, and then with like 3 of these the stream runners, as they're called, the novices. You let the novices do some work and get killed, and then you bust out this quad, and now you're getting 2 or 3 bonus attack actions with 1 quad ability.
With either the Crest Dancer or the Seneschal.
Yeah.
Because there's no rune mark on it, which is cool.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, if you needed to, you could even, like, you could just throw all of your stream runners in one battle group, and then you're just going to have a super stream runner at some point.
Interesting.
But, I mean, but it could apply to, anything, right? So, like, you got a big battle group. If 3 of the big fighters go down and the Seneschal is left, you could do it. But I just thought it was cool.
From a completely uninformed build perspective.
Yeah. I mean, bonus actions are always good. And so it's totally late game, and you got to have the quad. So,
but what I'm saying is, like, this gives you all the more reason to, like, just stack your Seneschal's battle group with just the cheap dudes.
With the stream runners. Yep. Anyway.
Yeah.
So those are
your favorite fighter?
Yeah. So, I mean,
I know you're going to pick the leader.
Yeah. So it's got to be the pureblood Seneschal. I mean, they're so dynamic. We were talking about this offline, like long before we started recording. I have a pipe dream of potentially owning a wood elf army for the old world, and these would make, just because of the dynamism of the models, these would make great war dancer models. They have way too much clothing on to be war dancers, but like the poses and the figures, like, they're all really good. But I think the Pure Flood Seneschal with the Ydrilan Warglaive, like, it's hard to go wrong with a Warglaive. Just because, I mean, it looks intimidating. And he's got, like, this great pose where he's poised on top of this column. But that's purely from an aesthetic stance. If I'm looking crunch-wise, rules-wise, I think I'm going to have to take the Master Blades, and that's because it's got 5 attacks instead of 4. Even though it is strength 4
instead
of
base
strength 5.
Damage too.
Has a higher base damage of 3, lower base damage of 4, but I always want to roll more dice in Warcry because that's more chances for 6s. So,
yeah. And then, like, your strength 4 is not really that. So the difference is you've got the Warglaive as strength 5.
Yep.
And then the Master Blades are strength 4, so you're not wounding stuff as consistently. But
you're rolling more dice.
But those ones that you do connect with, like, they're doing damage. A point of extra damage. Yeah.
Yep. The only thing that I will say about the Warglaive, and I remember, it is more expensive, which makes sense, is having 2-inch range, like 2-inch melee range, is big, because you can go into another fighter that's a 1-inch melee range, and they have to take a move action in order to be able to fight back. So, like, that.
And I don't recall, you can attack over top of another fighter, right?
You can, yep.
So that gives you more opportunities to kind of...
Yeah, you can stack.
Put those stream runners in danger, and then you attack over the top.
And then get that Boiling Wrath going.
Yeah. Those are cool.
Yeah, so that's my crunch. Give me some crunch for the Pyregheists.
Sure. So the Pyregheists faction abilities are Balefire Cremation. Cremate. When an ability tells you to cremate a fighter, remove that fighter from the battlefield and place a Pyre token at the center of the space occupied by that fighter. At the end of the battle round, after determining the control of objectives, allocate 3 damage to each enemy fighter within 1 inch of the center of one or more Pyre tokens. Kill a fighter, set it on fire, and if somebody ends close to it, they take 3 damage.
Yeah.
Really good. Really good.
I mean,
now, what I will say is that is easily mitigatable damage. Like, you just move away, disengage, do whatever to try and not be next to that thing at the end of the round.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll probably get caught out by it. But just having a little aura of a 3 damage ping is pretty cool. My favorite double is the first double, which
Nice.
is Fan the Flames. Add 1 to the damage points allocated by each hit and critical hit from the next melee attack action made by this fighter in this activation.
Ew.
So just pumping the damage up, getting those flames hotter.
Yeah, right?
And then their quad is Agonizing Penance. Pick a visible enemy fighter within 6 inches of this fighter. At the end, that enemy fighter makes a bonus move action directly towards the closest other fighter from their warband.
Yep.
As if they were jumping, a number of inches equal to the value of this ability. When doing so, they can move away from enemy fighters within 1 inch of this at the start of the move action. After the move action, allocate 3 damage points to that fighter and each other enemy fighter within 2 inches of this fighter. Cremate each fighter taken down by this ability.
Ew.
So you set them on fire, they run away towards their friends.
Yep.
And then they do damage. And if anybody dies, you make a Pyre token.
That seems pretty good.
Light them on fire. I like it.
Yeah.
I will also just take the easy route, and I will just pick the leader on mine too, because he has the most useful abilities. The Deacon of Flames has 20 health, which is not too shabby.
It's pretty good.
He is toughness 5 on both of his profiles. They're all kind of tough, actually.
They are, yeah.
The Balefire Guards have toughness 5, and the Torch Wraiths and the Flame Wraiths all have toughness 4 too. Yeah. It's hard to make a ghost bleed, my friend.
That's fair.
The cool thing about the Deacon of Flames with the tongs is the one I'm going to pick. Mostly because he has a higher strength attack and lower defenses, but he is lower dice number, but he is range 2. It is range 2 attack, 3 dice, strength 5, and it is a base 3 with a 4 crit. And then he also on both profiles has a range 8, 2 dice, strength 4, 2 4 damage attack.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, he's also cheaper than your leader, my friend, by about 20 points.
He is, but your Flame Wraiths are 35 points more expensive than my Stream Runners. So
yeah. So there's a lot of cool things here. There are some interesting rune marks that I want to call out. There's a Pyregeist rune mark that actually comes into play with some of these doubles, triples, and quads. There's really only one triple that calls out the Pyregeist specifically. But yeah, so some good solid profiles all the way through. That toughness 4 with there's no fighter that's under 12 wounds in this warband, which is really good.
Yep.
So while they were more expensive, they are definitely more durable. They're slow. They have move 4.
Yep. They all fly though.
But they all fly. So yep. I'm surprised to see that yours don't fly. Like they're jumping over stuff.
Well, they're move 5, but
yeah, but I would expect them to have some kind of ignore terrain ability or whatever. I don't see that.
No, I guess not.
Anyway, set stuff on fire. That's the whole premise of this warband.
Yep.
Set stuff on fire.
Set stuff on fire. Leave the battlefield on fire so people have to run away from objectives.
Yeah, it does seem kind of cool. Like if you're trying to hold points and you kill a fighter on top of a point, there's a big pyre-shaped reason for people to not go towards that objective.
Yeah. And your guys can, cool. Your fighters can go there. They don't take the damage.
It doesn't phase your own fighters. It just affects enemy fighters. So light it up, my friend.
I like it. All right. So that's our crunch. We'll take a break. And when we come back, we're going to cover the Idol of the Old Ones terrain rules and then the new Places of Power rules. And we're back, and we are here to talk about the new terrain that comes in the Pyre and Flood box, the Idol of the Old Ones, and then the new properties that you can apply to any of the terrain on your Warcry battlefield. So the Idol of the Old Ones, scattered during the calamitous descent of the wreck that has become known as the Ravening Ruin, the Idols of the Old Ones are a fractured network of cosmically charged statues of unknown function. Each is a malfunctioning artifact of unimaginable power, a trove of priceless materials, and a death trap for the unwary. It is a spaceship. Spaceship? All right, so Idol of the Old Ones. The faces of the Idol of the Old Ones are obstacles. The level sections of the Idol of the Old Ones are platforms. The crown is an obstacle and deadly terrain. The eyes of the Idol of the Old Ones are troves. And then there are two abilities that you can use if you are near or on the Idol of the Old Ones. The first is a stuttering beam. Many of the defense mechanisms of the Idols of the Old Ones still function and can be put to use against rival warbands. A fighter other than a fighter with the Beast rune mark on a platform and within 1 inch of the damage gem in the crown can use the ability below to attempt to focus the energy of the Idol of the Old Ones. And so I think if you haven't seen it, it is basically a giant slam face statue, and it's got a crown, and there's a shattered gem in its crown. So that's what it's like, the damage gem. This is a triple
with a flashlight. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, a super mean flashlight. Stuttering beam. Pick a point on the battlefield that is visible to this fighter and roll a dice. On a roll of 1, allocate d6 damage points to this fighter. Oops, you messed up. Don't press that button. Otherwise, allocate a number of damage points equal to half the value of this ability, rounding up to each enemy fighter within 3 inches of that point. Within 3 inches of that point. So you got a 3-inch radius circle of probably 2 to 3 damage. Yeah. A big 6-inch circle.
Yeah.
6-inch wide circle. Kaboom.
Yeah. Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trace, you want to talk about troves?
Sure. I'd love to read about troves. I like troves. The sundered scales are littered with troves that glint with the promise of treasure and boons. If they are not trapped, of course.
Oops.
That doesn't bode well.
No.
Some terrain features are troves. In addition to other terrain types, a fighter within 1 inch of a trove can use the following ability. It is a double called Ransack. Roll a dice. On a roll of a 1 or 2, allocate D3 damage points to this fighter. On a roll of a 3 or 4, remove damage points allocated to this fighter. On a roll of a 5 or 6, add 1 wild dice to your saved wild dice.
Seems pretty good.
You could get hurt, you could die, or you could find a treasure. Who knows?
Yeah.
Those are cool.
You can get hurt, you can heal, or you can find treasure.
I was just saying the two big ones on the other end on both.
Yeah.
I ignored the one heal. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I mean,
the wild dice is important. Points. The wild dice is what you want.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
Seems cool. It's also a gorgeous piece of terrain. My goal is to have it painted. I mean, just primed, it looks amazing, but I'm going to...
How are you going to paint it? You going to paint it like this?
Yeah, I think I'm going to paint it like the box art.
Why don't you just paint it stone so it matches the rest of your terrain you have?
Oh, that would be smart, wouldn't it? It's a good thing I haven't started painting it yet.
I got you, man. Make it to where you can use it.
Grays instead of greens? I don't know.
I do like the jade on it. The jade's pretty cool.
Yeah, the jade does look good.
It's a lot of metal, though.
It is. I need to touch up my terrain with... I need to paint... There's some parts I want to paint gold on my terrain anyway.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
how you
all
want
right.
to paint it.
All right, so moving on from the Idol of the Old Ones, Pyre and Flood introduces Places of Power. So these are properties that you can add to any of your terrain in your games of Warcry. There is always the call out. If you would like to use these rules in a game, your opponent must agree both to the use of these rules and to the abilities assigned to the terrain on the battlefield. So you're playing a cooperative, competitive game, right? Like you want your opponent to have a good experience too. So don't force these on them. That's all. And so it adds a new part of the terrain step. At the end of the terrain step, players can assign one property from those listed below to each piece of terrain on the battlefield. If a terrain piece has more than one platform, players can assign a different property to one or more of those platforms.
It looks like the ones that are on the actual one that's in the box are usable too. The stuttering beam and the troves. Like it doesn't say that in here, but they're worded exactly the same.
Maybe, yeah. If you're using alternate, you can. Yep. Of course, yeah, maybe. Why not?
I don't see why
it's
you
your game.
Couldn't. Yeah, you play it how you want it.
Play it how you want.
You paid a lot of money for these models.
That's right. Stuttering beams everywhere. Just all the laser beams. All right. So most of the terrain pictured in the book is terrain from the most recent boxes of Warcry, but there are 2 Age of Sigmar pieces of terrain. These are just recommended. You don't have to use these, but they make sense. So we'll just run through these real quick. We'll alternate back and forth. The Blood Altar. It has a picture of the Carrion Throne from the Flesh Eater Courts, I believe is what it's called.
That's right. Charnel Throne.
Yeah, that's it. The Charnel Throne. So this grants a double ability Blood Offering. Roll a dice. Allocate a number of damage points equal to the result to this fighter. Ooh. Until the end of the activation, add 1 to the strength and damage characteristic of this fighter's melee attack actions. That
take some damage. Do more.
It'd be real
damage.
nice to roll a 1 there.
Yeah.
It would not be nice to roll a 6.
No.
All right.
Yeah. So commanding Overlook. From this lofty position, a fighter can rain down death on their enemies. A fighter on this piece of terrain or a platform with this property can use the following ability. Double, High Ground. Until the end of this fighter's activation, add 2 to the strength characteristic of this fighter's missile attack actions.
Oh, I think your Deacon of Flames would like that.
Yeah, I think that, yes. 8 inches.
Yeah.
Raining or the strength 7. But the thing about it is, if I remember this correctly in Warcry, once you get above a certain strength threshold, it's not really valuable anymore.
Yeah.
Because you're just, yeah.
You would want to put this on a low strength range.
That's right.
Attack. Yeah. Yep. Like a strength 3 becomes a strength 5. Like that seems pretty valuable.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. The Fell Sump. This vile hollow contains noisome liquids, inimical to all life, perfect for coating an unscrupulous warrior's weapons. So this is not an ability. It is just a rule, a property. Noisome. Subtract 1 to a minimum of 1 from the toughness characteristic of properties on a piece of terrain or platform with this property. But
fighters on this piece of terrain.
Fighters, subtract 1 from the toughness characteristics of fighters on a piece of terrain or platform with this property. But add 2 to the damage points allocated by each critical hit from attack actions made by a fighter on a piece of terrain or platform with this ability. So your toughness is down 1, but your crits do 2 more points of damage.
You know what this looks like to me? This is the way to speed up the game. That's what a lot of these are.
Yep.
More damage, more fast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Less toughness. I like it.
Yeah. Lethal Vantage is the next one. This platform provides fighters with a perfect spot from which to launch an ambush on unsuspecting foes. A fighter on a piece of terrain or platform with this property can use the following ability. Double, diving attack. Until the end of this fighter's activation, this fighter does not suffer impact damage, so they jump off without any impact damage. And this fighter makes a move action at the end of which they can that they are on a battlefield floor. Add 1 to the strength and damage characteristics of this fighter's melee attack actions until the end of the activation. So they just jump off, don't take fall damage, and then they gain +1 strength and +1 damage to their attack actions until the end of the activation, not just the next attack, the whole thing.
Yikes. So you use that ability, and then you use another ability to give you a bonus move action. Oh, but you can only use one ability per turn.
One.
Yeah, dang.
This is still really good, though.
It is, it's still really good. All right, life sucking. Even the smallest drop of blood can awaken the hunger that lurks beneath the surface here. Leeching at the end of each battle round before control of objectives is determined. Allocate 3 damage points to each fighter on a piece of terrain or platform with this property, if the fighter has 1 or more damage points allocated to them. So if you're not wounded, you're safe. As soon as you become wounded, this terrain feature gets hungry and takes another bite.
Yep. I want to go back to that one previously. It says if this fighter makes a move action.
So if this fighter makes a move action at the... they don't get to make them... Okay, if this fighter makes a move action at the end of which they are on the battlefield floor. Okay.
Yep. Cool. The next one beyond the life-sucking terrain is Natural Armory. This redoubt is well stocked with makeshift missiles, razor-sharp rocks, weighty fruits, or unsuspecting critters, with which a fighter can pelt their enemies. So you're just throwing at people. A fighter on a piece of terrain or platform with this property can use the following ability. I feel like I'm getting all the abilities, and you're just getting all the passives. Double makeshift missiles. Roll a number of dice equal to the value of this ability. For each 5+, pick a visible enemy fighter within 8 inches of this fighter and more than 1 inch from each friendly fighter, and allocate 1 damage point to that fighter. So you're just chucking crap. Up to 6 damage.
Throwing squirrels at people.
Right? Up to 6. Equal to the value of this
roll
ability.
A number of dice. Yeah.
I mean, you want to keep those 6s probably, but that's pretty cool. Yeah. But on a 5-up, like, you're not going to get 6 damage. Like, that's not likely. But rolling 6 dice to potentially get extra little points of damage in is pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, Side of Glory. This platform has a mystical reputation, a strategic advantage, or a symbolic significance that attracts those who seek to build their legend. Glorious. At the end of the battle, if there is only one fighter on a piece of terrain or platform with this property, that fighter gains 1 level of renown. So obviously this would be something that you would use in a campaign, but gaining levels of renown.
Hey.
Sounds good.
I like it. Yeah. And then last but not least,
the ability again.
That's all right. Last but not least, the Stone of Sacrifice, the blood altar is definitely. I'll end on that. No, that's not a problem. Many gods of the mortal realms can be swayed by a sacrifice of sufficient value, and may reward their devotees with making an offering of the hated foe up on this blood-stained rock or altar or whatever you assign this property to.
Yep.
A fighter on a piece of terrain or platform with this property can use the following ability. Double, Grim Sacrifice. A fighter can only use this ability after their attack action takes down an enemy fighter that is within 3 inches of this fighter. When they do, roll a dice and consult the table below. Oh, there's a table. If the fighter taken down had a points cost of 115 or more, you can add or subtract 1 from the result.
Ooh, nice.
So bigger fighters give you manipulation on the chart. It is a D6 chart. A 1, no result. 2, if this fighter has any injuries, remove those injuries. Otherwise, there is no result. So this is probably tying into campaign stuff here too.
Yep.
3, if this fighter has any injuries, remove the injuries. Then roll a dice and remove up to that many damage points allocated to this fighter. 4, this fighter gains a level of renown. Do not make perish rolls for this fighter's lesser artifact after the battle. 5, this fighter gains a level of renown. Then roll a dice and remove up to that many damage points that got allocated to this fighter. And finally, 6, this fighter gains a level of renown. Then this fighter can make a bonus move action or a bonus attack action.
Nice. So you just dome somebody.
And now you might get to dome somebody else.
And then do it again.
Only
Except you can't use that ability more than once.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool. Those definitely add some flavor to the terrain, which is nice.
Yeah, and I think you're right. So the last 2 really seem to be tied into the campaigns. But those first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think it is a way to just get more damage onto the table.
Yeah, just speed up the game, make it a
Sounds
little
like
less.
Fun.
Well, I don't know that speed up the game is the best way to do it, but just more interaction with the table, which is part of what makes these games fun, is because you do have so much terrain on the table and such a small, like, skirmish game.
Yep.
So interacting with it seems like a really cool way to do that stuff.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
So what we are not going to cover is any of the campaign quest stuff because that is not a part of Warcry that we have played at all. So we won't really have anything to add there. But hopefully in future reviews, we can talk about those.
Or we just hopefully get a chance to play a campaign. That would be fun.
Yeah, and then we can talk about them later.
Yeah.
Could be a follow-up.
Yeah.
Battle Bellow.
Battle Bellow episode 2.
Yeah, that's right. Hopefully, yeah. Anyway, so we'll take a break here, and when we come back, we will close out the show. And we're back, and that will wrap up through the Pyre and the Flood, the 64th episode of the Battle Mallet podcast. As always, we want to say thanks for listening. If you could hit the like, subscribe, follow button on whatever platform you're using, we'd appreciate that. Other than word of mouth, it is the best way to get our content out to the rest of the world. Specifically for this one, we would love to hear any feedback that you have on this episode. If there is something that you feel like we've missed in our Warcry review, something that you think we could add, something specifically that you would like to hear about, we would love to get that feedback. We are Battle Mallet 1 on X. We are Battle Mallet PCast on Instagram. We are Battle Mallet Facebook on Battle Mallet Podcast on Facebook. You can email us at battlemalletpodcast@gmail.com. We have a Discord. You can find the link to that in the show notes because I'm not going to read that URL because it's real weird. But those are all of the ways to get in touch with us. And we would love any feedback that you have on this. Hopefully we can continue to do more Battle Bellow episodes.
It's been fun to do a little bit different content. I'll just say that. I enjoyed this.
Yeah. I'm a fan. So for the Battle Mallet podcast, I am a stream runner with Crest Blades, which grants me the Agile rune mark.
Fair enough. And I am a oh, I gotta find the thing. Hold on. Oh, which one was my favorite? I am a Balefire guard, guarding all of the flames that I'm about to set on the realms.
I like it. This is Jerod signing out.
This is Trace signing out.
Get the hell out of here.
This woods is on fire.
The Battle Mallet podcast is protected under the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find more information via links on podcast.battle-mallet.com. Music by Anno Domini Beats.
Hey. Oh, thanks.